Hi everyone and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Red-Black Mad Vampires in the Explorer format. And you may be asking, why do we want to play Red-Black Mad Vampires? Well, I think the madness mechanic is really strong, especially with all the discard that we find naturally in the vampire cards. And it was something I was noticing as I was just exploring them, is that many of them make blood tokens like Voldaren Epicure or Bloodtithe Harvester, and there's other ones that have like discard attack attached on, like Furyblade Vampire as sort of like a pump spell, or Falkenrath Pit Fighter. And so I realized like there's a lot of overlap with madness, and I knew there were already some vampires that had madness. So that's where it sort of came together, as I sort of weaved together vampires and their natural discarding synergies. That's how we arrived here. So those are our discarding vampires. The strongest of which is Bloodtithe Harvester. It just does a whole lot. It could be a removal spell. It's just a overstated creature. It makes the blood tokens. So now the way Madness works is if you have to discard this card, you can cast it at that point for its Madness cost, and that does not take into account timing restrictions. So, for example, if we can discard our Incorrigible Youths on our opponent's turn, we can then cast it at that moment. So there's cool things you can do like that. So Incorrigible Youths is one of our madness cards, 4/3 haste. Naturally costs 5, but we can madness it out for 3. Insatiable Gorgers costs 4 either way, and it's a 5/3, attacks each combat. One of the all-star cards, madness cards from a while ago, is Fiery Temper. So it's a 3 mana deal 3, but we can madness it out as a lightning bolt. And then the other one we have are 2 copies of Asylum Visitor. 3/1 with madness of same as its normal cost. And it can potentially draw us cards if people are empty-handed. So that's our like madness package right there. And yeah, we already talked about the other vampires. The other vampire we haven't mentioned is Vampire Socialite. So this one's just in there to go as it's our tribal synergy. And if the opponent lost life this turn, when it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each other vampire we control. And also has a passive ability: as long as an opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire we control enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So this one incentivizes us for damaging them. It combos really nicely with Voldaren Epicure, which just naturally pings the opponent. So that one's in there for tribal support. Also, with the sort of heavy self-discarding theme we have, Claim to Fame becomes pretty strong, where we can, still get value of this card if we discard it. We can discard it and still get the haste side of Fame in our graveyard. And Claim is also really strong with how many impactful 2-drops and even 1-drops that we have. So it just becomes a very strong mana-efficient play that's good for us on both halves of the card. But yeah, that's the main idea. There's only a couple cards that's considering Alchemist's Greeting, but I think this card just sucks too much on its own. It's just a way worse Fiery Temper. Was considering Sunscorched Desert because of the Vampire Socialites, but we're sort of color intense in this deck. I just didn't feel like putting a colorless lands inside there. But yeah, that's Red-Black Mad Vampires. So let's go ahead and take it in some games. All right, so we got a pretty good hand. 2 Madness Enablers with our Bloodtithe Harvesters, 2 Madness Payoffs. And Red-Black land into Vampire means any number of things. That card's very good, so could be Red-Black aggro, Red-Black mid-range, or Vampires. Question is, do we snap off Fatal Push? To me, it seems like just not high enough priority. Alright, so that's a great draw. So we play the Dragonskull, then get a Bloodtithe Harvester out. Just such a powerful card, man. Sort of a multi-archetype kind of card. Now, opponent has a Gigantha Companion. That's typically what you see for like sacrifice decks. Alright, so no land drop from them in a pass, which is great for us. Okay, so with only their one toughness creature or one power creature out that we can easily attack in. Let's see if they like block, sacrifice to like Deadly Dispute. Nope, okay. So I think the most powerful thing to do is just run out another Bloodtithe Harvester and then hold up Fatal Push. Now, a thing you'll start seeing with these more modern style madness cards, like Incorrigible Youths and Insatiable Gorgers, is they're just not as they're not as mana efficient as some of the ones in the past. So we have to have a lot of mana up to be able to like, you know, crack a blood token and then madness one of those out. Fiery Tempers from those old days though, and that is actually mana efficient. Okay, so surprisingly, they did not sack their creature to Deadly Dispute. They just sacked their blood token. So, okay, so Mayhem Devil confirms that they are a sacrifice deck. All right, they go ahead and claim the Firstborn. Now, this is me reviewing Fatal Push to make sure I understand exactly what Revolt means before trying to fire it off. And so this does not trigger Revolt because it does not leave the battlefield, it's just changing sides. And I wanted to make sure that before trying to like attack the Mayhem Devil. So this is a very aggressive play from the opponent. Like they don't have any mana up to sacrifice it to like Village Rites or Deadly Dispute or anything like that. So we're just going to get our Vampire back once it's all said and done. Alright, and things keep developing well for us, so... Now we're definitely going to kill the Mayhem Devil. That thing is a major problem. Question is, how should we do it? So I end up opting to just Fiery Temper it. So discard it to the blood token activation. And wanted to be careful because I anticipated, you know, Mayhem Devil is going to get one ping off us sacrificing the blood token. So we'll make sure it doesn't get multiple. But this allows us to just pay for Fiery Temper, draw our card, and wow, we just drew Vampire Socialite, which is a much better play than our little Furyblade. That allows us to attack in, play it post-combat, and get its enter the battlefield trigger since the opponent lost life. So that was just an absolutely massive turn, and opponent already looks like they're in a losing position just based on that exchange. So you could see the power of being able to madness things out. Like we still have 4 cards in hand, and you know, look at what we have on board. The opponent's not giving up though. They're mounting a defense, but things are going to start looking ugly for them. So we have some options here. Missing a land doesn't feel great. Claim is going to be nice later. So ponder it for a bit. It looks like the best play is going to be to activate the blood token, discarding Incorrigible Youths, and madnessing them out. That just allows us to just send in a ton of attackers against them, while just continuing to like amass cards in hand. Okay, another claim is great. So we're really bearing down on the opponent now. So they just don't have very good options. So they block those. They must have a removal spell or else they're just dead right now. Okay, so there's the Fatal Push. Okay, so opponent takes down our Socialite, but still takes 8 damage. And they get the Unlucky Witness trigger. And so they get a little bit more action, but they're sort of choked on mana for how many threats they have to deal with. Not only that, but the good thing about Incorrigible Use is that it dodges Fatal Push entirely. Alright, so Croxa, that's not going to do anything to us. It's more of a get your quest kind of play at this point in the game. Okay, so opponent can sack it to the village rights. So that is a sweet combo, but it's too little too late at this point in the game. And we lock up win number 1. All right, on to the next game. Another great hand. The mana situation's a little awkward because of that Dragonskull Summit. So, but go ahead and leave it at that. All right, so underdog. Okay, so we could play our untapped land. Question is, which of our many 2-drops do we play? I'm thinking about that one to maybe keep up Fatal Push, playing the Pit Fighter. But I think it's a little more mana efficient, especially like we're not too concerned with the underdog right now. And Fatal Push against Tenacious Underdog is not even a great play because it has Blitz from the graveyard. So it's not something you're looking to do against that kind of creature. So they take down our blocker, and then surprisingly we see Titan Strength. So already we're down to 14, and that sort of puts me on red alert. That's not a card you normally see out of these kind of decks. So it makes me worried about them sort of surprising us and blitzing our life total down. So for that reason, opt to play another Bloodtithe Harvester and just keep up Fatal Push to try and maybe blow out another combat trick. So you can see me checking out the Titan Strength. So alright, so Lava Coil takes down our Vampire. And surprisingly, they just straight up don't attack. I don't know if that was a misclick or something. So we take the opportunity to Fatal Push their creature, just for mana efficiency at this point. Alright, so we drew Shatter Skull, but is it worth taking 3 life at this point in the game? Doesn't really seem like it. So we can play the Furyblade, and play Falkenrath Pit Fighter, and play the tap Shatter Skull to open up options for later. So with Furyblade, we can use its combat discard trigger to get a cheap, or to madness out Asylum Visitor and get some extra value. So alright, so Bloodtithe Harvester and Croxa. So that's a little unfortunate. Opt to discard Vampire Socialite, since we can sort of functionally draw a card with the Asylum Visitor by like pitching it to one of our blood tokens. Yeah, so decide to just go ahead and use it for the Furyblade. Might have been better to use it for a blood token, though. Not sure about that. But we're stabilized a little bit, and so go ahead and just attack all. This puts them down to 14. And lets us play another Pit Fighter. Yeah, and so Asylum Visitor, if left alone, will start drawing us cards. So that's a threat to them as well. All right, so they have the Lava Coil though, but our Pit Fighter's holding off their Harvester. That is an amazing draw right there. That allows us to pitch it to the blood token and madness it out. Incorrigible Youths is just an all-star. Draw a new card, which we can then pitch to Furyblade for the pump effect and really just lay on the damage right now. Alright, so a surprising block from the opponent. Thought they were definitely going to block the 4-3, but maybe they're thinking about long-term card advantage from the... Anyway, that was enough, though. And you saw that last game, how fast we were able to turn things around. All right, another good hand. As it now, it looks like... Okay, so we're drawing all of our bolt into play lands. So we face Epicure and Epicure. So already, see what land they play. Yep. Yes, you've seen this correctly. This is the third red-black deck we faced in a row. So, red-black is one of the stronger archetypes in Explorer. We have seen different flavors of it, though, but red and black cards are just very strong in this format right now. Okay. Ultimately, decide to bolt it in just to get things moving. And thankfully, we have the untapped land for our third land drop. So, all right, another Claim the Firstborn. That card is extremely strong right now. There's a lot of 5-power creatures or really strong stuff in green you can take with Claim. Okay, so Fatal Pushing our guy is not as strong as Village Rites, so losing a lot of life, but they're not putting us under a lot of pressure. Alright, so Furyblade can block the Epicures pretty nice, and you can see the power of Claim to Fame right here, so it just allows us to just get Bloodtithe Harvester back. Claim to Fame depends, its power depends on the power of your 2-mana creatures, but when you're packed with really good ones like Bloodtithe Harvester, it's really nice. Okay, Mayhem Devil is a problem. Yeah, so trying to see if we had enough mana to Shatter Skull it. We were just short, and so unfortunately it looks like you just have to cash in Bloodtithe Harvester to take down Mayhem Devil. That, of course, will give them a Mayhem Devil trigger, but Mayhem Devil is just too much of a problem. You cannot leave it out. Like, just by cracking their blood tokens on their turn, they'd be able to mow down, like, most of our creatures. So, that's, public enemy number 1 right there. Alright, so we're able to get a little fancy, use a blood token, discard Incorrigible Youths, manage it out. Sorry, madness it out. Trying to decide whether to discard a card and get the pump. Just didn't seem that expedient right now to just pitch one of these. Like, these are all very useful cards for us. Okay, so alright, so they take our Furyblade and pitch the Thoughtseize to pump it. So already we're down to 2. So sweating a little bit here because there's it's very thin margins at this point. But they're not in a super comfortable position. Just trying to figure out the best plays to make to stay alive. Now they only have 2 1/1s out and no cards in hand, so that is comforting. They do have blood tokens to filter, but they just don't have a lot of mana to use. So it seems like the best long-term play is to crack a blood token to madness out Insatiable Gorgers. And with that fame in our graveyard, we're very close to just outright killing him, probably next turn, with how much power we can get out and with the haste we can supply. Okay, so another madness card. And decide that I'm just going to attack with the 4/3 and leave the Furyblade back. So that's why we did not discard for it. So put them to 9, just give them one more draw, and then we'll finish them off, kind of thing. Alright, so Witch's Oven makes things a little more interesting because they have some sort of pocket. They have some pocket life gain, essentially. Okay, but I could sort of smell blood in the water at this point. So opt to Shatter Skull down their 2 creatures. They are definitely going to sack 1 to Witch's Oven, and they're at a functional 12 life because they have enough mana to crack the food token. So, but you can see that currently we have 9, 10 power on board, and we can pitch a card to Furyblade to put that up to lethal. An opponent realizes that and gives up. Okay, so Mulligan, a sort of tough hand. This one looks a lot better. Maybe a little sketchy, but put back a land. We can operate pretty well on 1 to 2 mana. So that was the rationale for that. What? They're not a red-black deck. Something must have gone wrong in the Explorer queue. Alright, but we just play our Epicure. Now, not being able to kill Llanowar Elves right there is sort of concerning. And then immediately, it's a big problem. So they have a Steel Leaf Champion. 3 mana, 5/4. You can see why Claim the Firstborn is so strong. Imagine Claim the Firstborn, take the 5/4, smack them, Village Rights. There's a reason why the red-black decks are so good. We're not quite that flavor of it, though, so we're in major trouble taking 5 damage already. Let me see what their follow-up is. Nothing. So, unfortunately, Fiery Temper is not enough. Bloodtithe Harvester is enough with 2 blood tokens. But with them leaving their mana open, I'm not super confident. I'm just trying to do the best thing as possible. But, yeah, they have the Hexproof Enabler. So, they give it Hexproof, causing Bloodtithe's ability to fizzle. And we're in pretty bad shape with that sequence of events. Now, pass the turn here because we can crack a blood token to get our Asylum Visitor into play at instant speed. And if we had a little more mana to play, if we could block with the Asylum Visitor, then Madness out, Fiery Temper, it takes a bit more mana to do that. Yeah, Madness out, Asylum Visitor. Alright, and now we're sort of flooding out, and our Fiery Temper, although it's good, is just not enough against their 4 toughness Steel Leaf Champion. Oh, and then they fire off Collected Company, so that is pretty bad news for us, yeah. And they get another Steel Leaf and a Lovestruck Beast. And so, thinking for a moment, what could we possibly do? Could we kill their 1/1s to strand their Lovestruck Beast? Anyway, ultimately there's nothing, and so we concede. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, well, we've seen this opening quite a lot from ourselves and our opponents. So, turn 1 Epicure. Trying to decide what to do. End up playing Pathway on red, Pit Fighter, pass. And let's see if they play a black land. They do. Like I said, red-black's pretty strong, and they just sort of our luck of the draw this time. So this is already a different flavor. Serrated Scorpion, and then the Voldaren Epicure. So Scorpion is not one you see all the time, but it really makes you think a strong sacrifice theme. So I attack right here. Anyway, I think I tunnel visioned on the Scorpion thinking they were going to block with that, and obviously it was much better to block with the Epicure. So yeah, I don't think that was a very, very good attack right there. I just sort of got mixed up a bit. So we go ahead and just play the play our 2-mana creature and pass. Alright, so already pitching to blood tokens. And we could see already, so far, all their creatures have been 1 mana. So they seem to be like a very lean sacrifice deck. So there's Goldhound. Now, thankfully, we were able to hold off the attacks for a little bit. Yeah, with the handful of removal, I go ahead and attack here because we can just destroy any block choices they make. Now, I noticed that they are on low mana, so I end up fatal pushing the Gold Hound, just keep them very short on mana. Maybe it was better to hit the Scorpion there or save it. Hard to say, but they end up cracking their blood token, throwing away another Neonate, and finding a land. Alright, so they attack with both. Could fatal push before damage. Or crack blood token, fiery temper. I was waiting to see if they played any bigger threats. But nope, another Epicure. And they're passing, so take the opportunity now to pitch fiery temper, madness it out. And you know, the Scorpion's going to get us one way or the other, so go ahead and just... Oh. Thought I was going to hit the Scorpion, but I guess I was really going aggro right now, so... Alright, collateral damage, sacrificing Epicure, bringing us to 9. So they're sort of a sacrifice burn deck with very low to the ground creature base, so... Panicking a little bit because... that Scorpion, if it dies, is a 2-mana drain. So we have to think of ourselves as functionally at 7 life because of the Scorpion. Alright, so they're able to pitch a land. Because they have such a low curve, these blood tokens can just pitch lands and keep the cards flowing. Alright, so I've decided to race them here. And, you know, they're attacking us for 2 each turn. We're currently attacking them for 5. And go ahead and fire off the pre-combat Shatter Skull just to see what kind of shenanigans they might have going. This way, if they play any like sacrifice spells, we know they're doing that instead of removal or something. Alright, so they Village Rites the Scorpion. There's the 2-mana drain. And they find another collateral damage. Okay, so we're down to 2 life. This is getting tricky. And as I'm watching this game now, I'm wondering if I was maybe too aggro against this opponent who can just burn us so effectively. So any number of cards they have can just kill us right here. So, alright, so they play Insolent Neonate. The Menace on that might be a little problematic. And then Eye Twitch. Okay, so that's not great for us. But at this point, we're not blocking our way through this one. We're attacking our way through this one with how things are set up. So they're loath to block because we're almost dead. So that's why I just send them both in there. And opponent's thinking about what to do. So they decide just to let it through. You know, they want their attackers to try and finish the job. Okay, so trying to decide, like, do I hold a land in case I need to sacrifice the Pit Fighter? You know, I'm thinking about sacrificing it now. You know, there's a lot of tough choices. The fact that we have Sokenzin in hand is incredible because that's some instant speed attacker. So opt to hold the land in hand because we have so many ways to utilize useless cards. So go ahead and stop on their upkeep. Fatal Push the Eye Twitch because that's something we can't block ever. All right, and then they get to learn. And okay, so they go ahead and grab Start from Scratch. So that either deals 1 or destroys an artifact. Okay, so the opponent sends in their Neonate, and that allows us to just channel out Sokenzin, which conveniently has 2 creatures for us to double block. And the lesson they just grabbed, all the lessons are sorcery speed, so I know at least that card cannot take out our blockers. So this feels pretty good. Opponent must be like fishing for like direct damage, because instead of killing one of our creatures, they sacrifice the Neonate to try and dig a little deeper. Now I'm fully expecting them to fire off that and shoot our neonate, but opponent appears to have given up. I think they could have bought themselves a little more time, but we end up getting the win. Well, that was Red-Black Mad Vampires. Went 4-1 in our games, and above all, established Red-Black superiority. We went 4-0 against other various flavors of Red-Black, and I have to say this style of deck feels pretty strong. Like, just being able to madness things out and get so much value off our discards felt incredibly strong. Anytime we got to do that felt really incredible. Now, I went ahead and split the Gorgers and Youths when building this, but it really seems like we should max out, cut the Gorgers and add 2 more Incorrigible Youths. You could say we just needed a little encouragement. Another strong one was Asylum Visitor. People, these decks are all so lean and people empty their hands. Like, I feel like the card draw triggers will happen often. Opponents were scared of this and killed it anytime it appeared, but that's no way. I would love to increase more copies of somehow. Claim to Fame felt good. Everything honestly felt good. We are pretty soft to the giant green decks, as you could see in that one game. That's maybe one argument to keep Insatiable Gorgers, but honestly, I think just going all in on the cheaper madness and the haste, because this allows us to turn 4, crack a blood token, madness it out, whereas this one we have to wait a whole another turn. So I think a little bit of reconfiguring, and you got a really good deck here. Not only that, but it's not too heavy on the wild cards. We got a couple of mythics, and as far as like the non-land cards, we only have 6 rares, 2 Asylum Visitors and 4 Pit Fighters. The mana bases, of course, where a ton of rares are taken up. So, but this is transferable among other decks, so I think I consider this relatively budget. But yeah, that was Red-Black Mad Vampires. Let me know in the comments what are your favorite madness cards to cast. And thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.